So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our presentation. It's tax time. Beware of tax scams. We are hosting this in collaboration with the Canadian Network for the Prevention of Elder Abuse. And being that it's tax season and the fraudsters are out and about, we thought that would be a great opportunity to give you some information to help prevent you from becoming a victim of any sort of scam that might be out there. And we have been doing a series of tax talks, just talking about tax credits. So we thought this would align really well with our theme this month, being it's also Fraud Prevention Month, which I'm sure Stephanie will also be mentioning. So Stephane Senecal is from the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre, and she is going to be our speaker for today. Before we begin, I'd like to give our land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we gather on a number of First Nations and acknowledge their stewardship of this land throughout the ages. We seek a new relationship with the original peoples of this land, one that is based in honor and deep respect. Just a few logistics. Everyone's microphone and cameras will be off during the webinar, but we do encourage you to post comments or suggestions of whatever you may have in the chat box. And we also have a Q&A box where we encourage you to put your questions in the Q&A just to make sure that we don't miss your questions, especially if we do get a lot of questions. If you put it in the chat box, it sometimes gets missed and it's hard to scroll if there's lots of comments during the session. We may remind you of that, but just as a reminder, that would be great to do. I mentioned we have our ASL interpreters on with us today. You can change the speaker view or gallery view. There's a little grid box at the top of your screen, and you can choose whatever preference that you would like to see the presentation in today. And there's also closed captioning available on the bottom of your screen. You should see a CC that you can enable that if you'd like to do that on your own computers. Just a reminder, today's session will be recorded. We will post it on both of our websites with Elder Abuse Prevention Ontario, as well as the Canadian Network websites, and just give us a few days to get that posted. And any links or documents that we share will be posted on the websites as well. And lastly, we do appreciate your feedback on our session. So if you don't mind completing a short evaluation, which you'll get a link or a pop-up after the presentation, we greatly appreciate your feedback as well. And lastly, we also respect your confidentiality and privacy. This is a public forum. So if you do have a situation that you would like to get some more information or advice about, please reach out to us by phone or email. We'd be more than happy to discuss your situation offline. Again, we're just respecting that confidentiality and having that conversation with you on a one-to-one basis. So just a little bit about EAPO. Our mission and vision is to prevent elder abuse and to address the issue of ageism and promote human rights of older persons so that your rights are advanced, protected, and respected. We implement Ontario's strategy to combat elder abuse, and we're funded through the Ministry for Seniors and Accessibility to implement that strategy. I'm going to ask my colleague Benedict to come online to talk about the Canadian Network.
Thank you, Rayanne. Hi, everybody. My name is Benedict Schöpflin. I'm the Executive Director of CNPEA, which is the Canadian Network for the Prevention of Elder Abuse. So just like EAPO, we work to improve the general capacity to prevent and respond to elder abuse, but we're doing it on the Canadian scale. And our focus is on policy reform and public education. We do a lot of collaboration work with organizations at the national and provincial level, with EAPO, among many others. And we are very happy to be contributing to this webinar today about tax scams. It's a hot topic, and I think it's the right season for it. So if you want to learn more about CNPEA, you can access our website at cnpea.ca. It's a bilingual website. You can also find us on all main social media channels at CNPEA.
Great, thanks, Benedict. So it gives me great pleasure to invite Stephanie, our speaker today. So Stephanie Senecal is the Senior Support Unit Coordinator at the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. And she works with a team of senior volunteers who do callbacks to senior victims of fraud, who do input data on the frauds that are happening. She also does a number of fraud prevention presentations to the public. And again, she also assists the law enforcement officers that are working with senior victims of fraud. And she's very active in the community, and not only within Ontario, but also across Canada. And I know her portfolio is getting larger. So welcome, Stephanie, and I will turn it over to you to present.
Perfect. Thank you. I will try to share my screen without any issues. Let's see if that works. Is that? We can see it. I believe so.
There we go. Yep.
Looking great.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you again, Rayanne, and Benedict for inviting me to do this seminar today. So as Rayanne said, I'm the Senior Support Unit Coordinator at the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre, and I will explain to you a little bit how that has changed over the last few months, I guess. So during the seminar, we will be talking about the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre, the solicitation methods, the tools of the fraudsters, the fraud trends. We're going to talk about passwords as well. Tax season, and also government frauds and how they happen. So a little bit about the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. Sorry, I'm having a hard time with my internet here, so I hope it's not cutting out. So a little bit about the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre is we are based out of North Bay, Ontario, and we are in partnership with the Ontario Provincial Police, the RCMP, and the Competition Bureau of Canada. Our day-to-day operations are led by the RCMP. So we are a central repository for fraud information. We don't do any investigations here, but I will share with you all the good stuff that we do at the center. So we have 3 different units at the center. So the first one, so CAFC is going through a lot of changes in the near future, in the last few months. So we have the Fraud Prevention and Intake Unit, which just changed to the Intake and Victim Engagement Unit. And what this unit does is that they will validate all the reports that have been put through our website. They will accept reports online, by telephone, by mail, by fax, and law enforcement, government agencies, and our partners will also send us reports, and this unit will enter these reports into the database. And they take reports from victims and non-victims. So it's important to know that at the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre, we will accept reports, whether you've been a victim or not. And we will also accept reports from somebody else. So if you don't want to be reporting on behalf of yourself, somebody else can, and you can even report anonymously if you don't want us to know who you are. So this unit is now a little bit more victim-centered approach as it was before. The unit received training on how to take victim statements and interviewing skills as well. This unit will give advice to the victims on what they should be doing next to protect themselves. They will educate them on other types of frauds, and they will provide them advice like, make sure you change your passwords, make sure you advise your bank, and so on. This unit will refer to our other units when it meets specific guidelines. So if the person is at high risk, so example, if they have medical issues or if they're suicidal, if they've lost more than $10,000, they will refer to other units for a parcel intercept and for any new twist, because we know that this is the unit that learns about the new frauds first. So they need to share it with the other units so we can know what is happening, but we can also share the information with everybody. This unit will also do priority inputs. So example of that, and special projects. So that kind of coincides. So what happens here is that sometimes law enforcement in a specific region are doing investigations on a specific fraud or a specific person, and they will send us all the reports so we can enter them into the database so we can have an actual picture of what is happening within a specific area. The second unit is the operational support unit. So this is the unit that works very closely with law enforcement, not just in Ontario, not just in Canada, but all over the world. So they can create investigative packages for anybody. So the Jamaican police example, if there's something happening within their area, they can come to us. We can do searches in our database and we can provide them with the data that we have. And that works both ways. So another example would be Kingston Police, for example. If we see something that is happening within their area, we want to make sure that they know that this is happening. So we will create an investigative package and send it to them. And the other thing that this unit does is disruption. So they will disrupt telephone numbers, email addresses, websites, merchant accounts, bank accounts, and so on. So here's a little bit of statistics for you here. And more. So these are the dollar loss that we've received over the last 5 years. So in 2019, we had a total loss of $138.3 million. And as you can see here, the numbers do go up from there. So last year in 2024, we had a reported loss of $637.4 million. So the green section here would be all the cyber-enabled frauds that have been reported to us, and the orange is just the traditional frauds. So the third unit is the senior support unit. So this unit, like Ryan said, we are a group. Well, I'm the only paid employee, actually. Oh, no, sorry, I'm lying. We just hired one more employee. So we're 2 paid employees within this unit. So we take care of a group of volunteers who do outreach to senior victims of fraud. Pre-COVID, these volunteers would come into the office and do mail out. They would prepare presentations. Some of them even do presentations, but mostly is they do callbacks to senior victims of fraud. And sometimes, honestly, it's just to make sure that they're okay. Let them recount their story one more time. We will provide them advice, we'll provide them education, and we'll be there for them as long as they need us to be there. So the thing is with this unit is that it's changed as well. So now we are called the Coordination and Community Support Team. So I would be the coordination part of this, and the other employee would be the community support team. We are onboarding one more person to be able to do this. So before, we would only do presentations to senior groups. Now we will be doing presentations to vulnerable communities. We will follow trends. We will pretty much, oh, sorry, my bad. We will do presentations to any age group and anybody. So the coordinator will identify the groups that require presentations, education and resource materials, or support. And then the community support members will provide the presentations. They will also pull data, conduct analytical searches, and identify the fraud trends. And then we also have, like I said, the volunteers. So we will recruit, retain, train these volunteers so we can have a nice group of people helping everybody now. As you can see, my job will become a lot busier, but that is okay. That is okay. So it's tax season. So government frauds have been known for a long time, and we know they're happening and they will always be happening. So these frauds usually start either by a direct call, a text message, an email, or something by mail. So before we used to say, don't worry if you get an email or a text message. If it's the government and they're really looking for you, they'll send you something by mail. Now, the fraudsters know this. So what they're doing is that they are calling you and then they're following up with a letter or just sending a letter. So just because you are receiving something in the mail from the government, law enforcement, a lawyer, or anybody, by all means, follow your gut. If you are not sure, if there's a little bit of like, oh, is this true? Is this not? Make sure that you follow up with the number that you are familiar with to make sure that that letter is actually legitimate. I don't want you to go on the internet and find a telephone number. Telephone numbers are easily found on the internet, but fraudsters can easily put fraudulent telephone numbers there as well. So I would encourage everybody to go in your filing cabinet and find a letter that you've received in the past that you know is legitimate and call that number to confirm the legitimacy of the call, the text message, the email, or the letter that you've received by mail. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the tools of the fraudsters. So I find it very important to learn the tools of the fraudsters because these tools are for every single type of fraud that we have out there. So the ones that I put in this slide are the ones that I feel that are the most important for tax season and government scams. So we have automated dialing and robocalling. So automated dialing, that is when you receive, step back. This is when a computer program dials a list of telephone numbers. They can know who you are, but most of the time they do not know who you are. And these lists can be created either by with a computer program targeting a specific community, or it could be that they stole the list through a database breach, or they stole it from a phone book. There's other ways, but those are the three most popular ways. So most of these are used with robocalling. So when you pick up the telephone, there's a pre-recorded message. It could be that your social insurance number's been compromised. Please press 1 to speak to a representative. They're a lot more complex than that, but that's the gist of it. So you need to press a number to speak to somebody. The second one on my list is spoofing. So spoofing is when you get an email, a text message, or a telephone call where the fraudster is camouflaging the actual number that they are using. So just because you see RBC on your call display, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is RBC. Just because it resembles like a telephone number of your community, it doesn't mean that it's somebody from your community. Fraudsters will hide the actual telephone number they're using. And this is one of their tools to make you pick up the telephone. So rule of thumb for us is if you don't recognize the number, let it go to voicemail. If it's somebody that is actually trying to reach you, they will leave a message. If you don't have a voicemail box, that is fine. But most of the time, people will call back a second time. If you see a telephone number on your call display, we do not want you to call this number back because this number can belong to an actual person that doesn't even know that their number is being used. The third one is search engine optimization. So this one is when you go on the internet and you're looking for a website, let's just say CRA. And then you put CRA in Google, for example, and a bunch of websites pop up. Well, the optimization part of this is that fraudsters pay to have their fraudulent websites show up in the top results. So just because it shows up first, it doesn't mean that it's legitimate. Which leads me to fake websites. Before we used to say, look for spelling errors, look for formatting errors. But nowadays, with the artificial intelligence, these fake websites are very, very hard to spot. So for any government website, we know that it's .gc.ca. So if you're looking to apply for a grant that is available, don't go on biggrant.com, right? Make sure that you are on the Canadian website. And then another tool is there's always a sense of urgency, and that makes you act quickly as well. Sometimes there's a threat involved, and the urgency does not give you the time to actually think about what is happening. So in any scenario that you're in, if there's a sense of urgency, that's a huge red flag. So what I want you to do is actually take 5 minutes before you react and think about what is happening. And if you're still unsure if it's a scam, talk to 2 people about it. So again, it could be finding the legitimate number in your filing cabinet and asking somebody, but it could also be the taxi driver that's bringing you to the bank. It could be the bank teller. It could be the gentleman across the street cutting the grass. And, if you're not sure, maybe they will be able to enlighten you in the situation that you're in. And another tool, the last one here that I have is fake stamps or even legitimate stamps. So fraudsters will even create those printed on black or pink stamps that are fake, but they are so good that they're going through Canada Post. Or they will use stolen credit cards to purchase legitimate stamps. So just because there's a real stamp on it, it doesn't mean that it's a legitimate letter. And the last tool I want to talk about is on my next slide, which is remote access. So what fraudsters are doing is that they are honestly the nicest people you will ever meet. They want to help you. And not for everybody, but a lot of people don't want to be running to the store, or they don't know how to do something, but fraudsters will help. So what happens here is that they will remote access into your computer, sometimes even unknowingly, but they will get you to download applications such as TeamViewer, AnyDesk, and UltraViewer. You will have to accept, and that lets them be on your computer where they're actually using your mouse and logging into accounts, or removing viruses or creating accounts for you. But while they're in there and they're helping you, and I say helping you, they're stealing all of your personal information. So if ever that happens and you realize that it's happened, it's important to bring your device to a technician to have it cleaned, because once they've been in your computer, they can access that computer every single time it is turned back on. There are other applications that are good to prevent that from happening, or to clean out your computer from any of those downloaded applications that provide them access. The one that I am familiar with, it's called Seraph, Secure. And what that does is you download this application and it's free. It runs a scan on your device to see if any of those remote access applications have ever been downloaded, if there is somebody in your computer as we speak, and it will remove them. And also, if ever you're trying to give anybody access to your laptop, you'll get a pop-up that'll say, "Are you sure?" There are a lot of scams that are happening with this remote access. So it's just an extra security, I guess, to verify your computer or device, but also to prevent them from getting into your device. And the next screen here is, which leads me actually to identity theft and identity fraud, because most of the time when fraudsters go into your computer, like I said, they will steal your personal information. So what happens here is that, identity theft is one thing, identity fraud is the other thing. So identity theft happens when your personal information is stolen or compromised. So like I said, this can happen through them accessing your device. It could be that you stole your wallet. It could be that you've provided personal information over the telephone or in a phishing scam, but it could also be through database breaches. And what happens at that point is that the fraudsters will try to use that information fraudulently to get money in various ways. So it could be loans, credit cards, but it could also be for the tax scam. So what happens in this situation is that the fraudsters will use your social insurance number, and they will try to access your CRA account. And while they're in there, if they're able to access it, usually what happens is that they will either try to change your direct deposit information, if you have direct deposit. If not, they will try to change your mailing address so the check will go to them. They may even try to change your marital status, where you will get more money if you're, single or not common law partner or married. And they will even try to change your email address, because once you log into your CRA account, if any changes are being done, usually they send you an email address advising you that this has been done to your account. So to prevent you from knowing that they've changed the direct deposit, mailing address, or marital status, they're the ones who are going to get the email. So usually they will either try to do the taxes for you so they get the money, but they can also try to get like the baby bonuses, the GST checks. It could be a government, like during COVID, they gave $200 for this and that and this. So they would get those checks. Which leads me a little bit to the next one is extortion scams. So this happens when someone unlawfully obtains money, property, or service from a person, entity, or institution through coercion. So actually, I'll switch slides here. So what happens here is that a scammer claims to be an employee of either Canada Revenue Agency or Service Canada. Usually this is through a call. So they will say that your social insurance number has been compromised, you have an outstanding case against you, you can owe back taxes. They can say that you have unpaid balances, you've committed a criminal crime, and they will threaten you and tell you not to speak to them, or sorry, they threaten that you do not, I'm trying to read my slide, but it doesn't make sense. They threaten you and they say that you'll be arrested, fined, or deported. I shouldn't even have to read, right? And these scammers may also try to get request payments through money service business, gift cards, and even Bitcoin or e-transfers. And another scam that we see often with the government is the phishing scam. So the phishing scam is when you get an email or a text message that contains a link. So for phishing scams, this is not to steal funds from you. It's to steal your personal information so they can fraud you. And an example is doing your tax return or accessing your CRA account to change the information so they get your money. And commons one that we see here is that you they say that there's a rebate or and you need to click on it to update your information or to collect the rebate. It could be a return from the government. It could be saying that you have new mail online and you need to click a link to access your CRA account. It could be an incentive for a grant. It could be a federal payment. It could be a lot of things. But rule of thumb here is that we don't want you to click on any links whatsoever within emails and text messages and provide personal or financial information. So on this slide, this is actually a few examples of phishing scams. So you can see them here, but we determine your annual entitlement based on the tax form submitted. Please visit below to complete your pending GST HST entitlement of $447.95. Then the one on the right-hand side is Government of Ontario sent you $540 and the money is waiting to be deposited. So if you click on this link, they will most likely ask you for your name and your bank account information. And the next one I want to talk about is service scams. So there's a lot of different variations of the service scams out there. So this scam is pretty much when they ask you, they're doing a service for you. So the ones for the government that we see is to apply for a passport, even Nexus, to get a social insurance number or a birth certificate, to book a driver's road test, and doing tax returns as well. So this is when you're actually the one searching for this online. You find a fraudulent website and then you provide them with a bunch of personal information, which at that point you do become a victim of identity theft and may become a victim of identity fraud. Again, with anything, right? Any website online, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So most of these websites will have a fee associated. It'll be a smaller fee, maybe. There may be promises that they can do it quicker than anybody else. But believe me that no one can speed up the process. And I'll actually tell you a little personal story for myself. So when I talk about scams at home, my husband never believes me about scams and so on. Sometimes he does, but he never believes me on anything. So he was looking to apply for his Nexus. So Nexus is like a passport on steroids type of thing. And I had applied for mine and I told him that it was going to take like 6 months to get my Nexus. There is like an alert on their website saying that, they were really busy right now. And I sent him the link and I said, here, you go and apply for it as well. But instead of going on the link that I provided him, he found a fraudulent website that we're going to charge him an arm and a leg. They were going to charge him $2,000 when I only had to pay $50. But what happened is that they promised him that he would get it within a month or two, which you can't, because even though they're providing the service to you, and they may provide the service to you, they're going to charge you more, or there'll be hidden service fees or hidden fees, or they'll be posting it in Canadian dollars, but really it was in US dollars. So what happened in my husband's situation is that he received a call from somebody with all those promises, and he provided them with all his information, social insurance number, passport, everything, date of birth, address. And then a few months later, we got a bunch of letters in the mail saying that we had applied for a Visa card, applied for a MasterCard, applied for this, a Costco card. There were so many that came in. And at that point, that's when he realized, he's like, oh, shoot, I should have listened to my wife. Okay, so now we're going to stop talking about these scams, and I want to talk about passwords, because a lot of people think that it's okay to use the same password twice. It's okay to store your passwords on your devices. It's okay to so here's what I need you to know. So use a strong password to log into all your devices. Don't use the same one twice. Never store your passwords on your devices or near your devices. And the reason why I say that, unless you're using like a password keeper that is password protected, then that's fine. They will also create really strong passwords for you, but they need to be locked. So remember how I talked about remote access? So can you imagine if you're saving all your passwords on your laptop, and then accidentally you give access to a fraudster to your laptop remotely? He'll have access to all your passwords. And the reason why I don't want you to store your passwords near your devices is that we always think that fraudsters are not in our home, but they could be in our home as well. It could be the PSW that's coming in, or it could be the plumber, or it could be your grandson's friend, or it could be anybody. So out of sight, out of mind. My dad's girlfriend actually keeps her passwords in those little plastic recipe boxes with the cards. And I find that super intelligent, because you can store your passwords alphabetically. They're easy to find. You can have different passwords for everything, and it's fine because they're easy to find. But she stores that little box in her safe. So that would be a suggestion, or honestly, just like in your underwear drawer or anywhere, out of sight, out of mind. And the reason why I don't want you to use the same password twice, that is because, can you imagine if you have the same password for your email account, and you have the same password for your bank account? So your email gets compromised, fraudsters are in there. They will study every single email that you have in there. And if they know that you bank with RBC, guess what? They're going to go and try to log into your RBC account. So I suggest that you especially don't use the same passwords for those important accounts, like your banks, your credit cards, the government, but also your email. And if they offer the double authentication factor, use it. And I know it's a pain. I know passwords are a pain, usernames are a pain, and double authentication is a pain, but this has been created to protect you. So double authentication can be one of two. Most popular ones would be that they send you a text message with a code to your email or your telephone. Please know that that is a one-time code. It's only good for that one-time login, and you never give that code to anybody, no matter what the excuse is. You keep that code to yourself. If you provide that code to somebody, even if you think it's legitimate, you may be giving them access to whatever account. So never give that code to anybody. We want you to change your passwords twice a year. I know that's a lot, but if your passwords are all organized in that little box or in a book of some sort, it's a lot easier to do for sure. And then we don't want you to share passwords. So what is a strong password? So a strong password can be like a phrase of some sort. So I'll give you an example in just a little bit. Or it could be something that contains 12 characters, combination of upper and lowercase letters, a minimum of one letter and one number, and one special character. And here's an example. So don't tell my brother, but my brother is Roger. And am using him as an example. So you can use a word that you are familiar with. It doesn't have to be a name, but I'm using my brother in this example. So you can create a phrase using that name. So here, R for rain, O for olive, G for green, E for eel, and R for rat. He's not a rat, but and then exclamation mark. So that's something that you can do as a strong password. And you can always use that same name, but change the words. Or you can substitute numbers for letters. So my name is Stephanie, and this is a little bit much, but I just did it so you can understand. So for the A, you can put the @ sign. For the E, you can put a 3. For an I, you can put an exclamation mark. For the S, you can put money sign. So see how it's creating a strong password, even though that you're using your own name. I wouldn't encourage you to use your own name, but this is just an example. Or use a phrase. Hashtag, I love pineapples in the summer, hashtag, right? It can be easy as that. And then here's a little list of do not for you. So do not click on links within text messages or emails and provide personal and financial information. Do not call a telephone number that was provided to you. Use the number you are familiar with. Do not provide personal or financial information unless you are 100% sure it's a trusted source, and usually you are the one who initiated the call. Never give access to your device to anyone. It doesn't matter for whatever reason, do not, because they could be stealing your personal information and they could be in there forever until you get your computer cleaned out. And do not have faith in your caller ID or email address you see, as it could be spoofed. So when I talk about email spoofing, it could be like the name of an organization. So it could be like Canada Post, for example. So if you take your mouse and you hover over the name of the in the from field, so Canada Post, it'll show you what the actual email address is, or click on reply and then it'll show you what the actual email address is. So if they're using any type of free domains like Outlook, Hotmail, Livemail, iCloud, those are all free domains. It's most likely a scam, especially if you see brad4452@gmail.com. It's a scam. But the other thing is you have to be very vigilant, because they could be trying to mimic the name of an organization. So they would have like Canada-Post instead of just canadapost.ca. So look closely to see if there's any spelling errors within that email. And again, if you have just a little bit of a doubt, follow your gut and don't do anything with that email, and call the source. And as for the government, it's important to know that the government will not ask for payment or pay a refund by gift cards, cryptocurrency, or e-transfer. The government will not ask for a payment via text message or on social media. The government will not deport or arrest you. The government will not ask to secure your funds in a government secure account. So this government secure account that I'm talking about is, they're called cryptocurrency ATM machines, or BTM machines, Bitcoin machines. So not everybody is aware of these. So I will stop for, I will stop for a second and talk about those. So these are found mostly in corner stores. They could be in malls. They could be in pharmacies. They're honestly all over the place now. So as a favor, I want you to look around in all the stores that you go into and try to figure out where these machines are in your community. And if ever you see somebody at one of those machines, go and talk to them, because to me, they're mostly used for fraudulent activities. So they look like an ATM machine, but instead of you putting your card in and it spits out money, you're actually the one putting money in there. And know that no payment to your hydro company, your telephone company, or anybody can be made through these machines. And the reason why I think that these are used mostly for fraudulent activity is because imagine if you go to the bank and you say, I want to borrow $1,000, and they say, okay, I'm going to charge you 1%. And then you go to your friend and they say, okay, yeah, I'll lend you the $1,000, but I'm going to charge you 25%. Who would you go to? Your bank. So this is a really good example because these machines have a really, really high percentage that they charge to invest your money in cryptocurrency. But if somebody actually knows what they're doing and they're investing money in cryptocurrency, there's the fee is a lot less. Um, which brings me actually to investment scams. I don't have a slide on this, but I find it important to tell you a little bit about investment scams today because it is our number one fraud here at the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center. And usually how that happens is that somebody is curious in cryptocurrency. It's mostly cryptocurrency. Either they're curious or they're part of another scam, like a romance scam, and somebody convinces them to invest in cryptocurrency. Usually it will start with a really small amount, and then there'll be promises that their money will double or triple or whatever over the next few weeks. They will create an account for you. Sometimes they will even remote access into your computer to help you create that account, which is a big red flag right there, right? They will ask for a piece of photo ID to create this account. This is another red flag because you shouldn't be giving a piece of ID to anybody you've never met in person. And then the other thing is that the website that they're creating this account on is fraudulent. So whatever they're telling you is actually happening because they're the ones controlling it. So then they will convince you to invest more and more and more and more. When you're ready to pull your money out, there's a few things that can happen is that they will encourage you to keep your money there for sure because your money will double again. But if you're really ready to take your money out, they will show you how easy it is to withdraw some money. They will only let you withdraw a little bit of money, like $1,000, for example. So that is a tactic that they're using for you to invest more and more. And then when you're actually ready to take your money out, there'll be service fees, lawyer fees, commission fees, and so on. As long as you're paying these fees, they will be creating other fees and other fees until you don't have no more money and you have lost everything. Or something else that we see is that they will call you and say, you need to move your funds urgently because our website or account's going to crash, and then you don't act fast enough and you lose all your money. But please know that after you've invested in a fraudulent cryptocurrency investment scam, your money has been gone since day one. And then if their website crashes, they will not communicate with you anymore. And usually this happens when they know that you don't have any more money to give. Okay. And then the government will not ask for personal information in an email or a voicemail. And the government will not ask for your CRA e-file username, password, or authentication code ever. How to report fraud. So you can report using our toll-free number. So 1-888-495-8501. Or you can go on our website, antifraudcenter.ca. So rule of thumb is that if you have lost money, we want you to report to your local law enforcement and the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center. The police are the ones in charge of investigating if they can and if they choose to. And the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center hold the database with all the fraud information. You may also ask the local police to send us the report and it will be entered in our database. And again, you can report on behalf of yourself, you can report on behalf of somebody else, and you can even report anonymously, whether you have been a victim or not. Any questions?
All right, let's see if we have any questions. I saw a couple come through while you were speaking. So just a reminder, while I'm working my way through the first couple of questions, for anyone else, if you have questions, type them in the Q&A box. So not the comments, but the little button at the bottom of the screen that says Q&A, and that way we'll track it easier. So at the very kind of top of your presentation, you mentioned something about disruption of phone numbers, and someone asked, what exactly did you mean by that?
Okay, so what happens is that the operational support unit on a monthly basis, they take all the emails, website, bank accounts, merchant accounts, telephone numbers, and they will send it to our partners. So we'll use Bell as an example in telephones. So all the telephone numbers that have been reported to us being fraudulent, we send them to Bell. We tell them, hey, we believe these telephone numbers are fraudulent. They will do their own internal investigation to determine if these telephone numbers are fraudulent. And if they are, we shut them down. So even if you just have, an email address or just a website, we want those telephone numbers or websites or whatever. The only thing we don't want is call display numbers because most of them are spoofed. But yeah, we do that for we just to give these fraudsters a hard time. They're always a step ahead of us, we feel. So if we can give them a hard time, then we will.
Yeah, put a stick in the bike
Oh
wheel.
ouais, un bâton des roues, comme on dit en français.
Yep.
Ouais, exactement.
That's what I thought.
Ouais.
Somebody else was asking, can the multi-factor, the
Multi-factor
multi
authentication, yeah.
thank you. I'm always missing one word in that one. So multi-factor authentication, can that be compromised? Because for when you have your online CRA account, for instance, or something else that asks you for multiple factor authentication, can that be messed with?
Well, it depends if the fraudsters have been able to either access your device. So if you've given remote access in the past, and then you log into your bank and it sends you a code to your email, and the fraudsters are in your email, then they will get the code. But most of the time, if your devices has not been compromised or that account, because that account, maybe the fraudster added their telephone number to it as the primary telephone number. So I can't say no, it can't, because it can if the other accounts have been compromised.
Okay. Slight pivot from the theme, but out of curiosity, someone wants to know if you give talks to high school students as well, because it might be useful to educate them early about these things.
Yes, do you know what? I'm happy somebody's asking that because now that we're doing the switch from senior support unit to coordination and community support team, that is something that we have been looking at.
Mhm.
And honestly, true to my heart, it's one thing that I want to do because teenagers are so much fun. And I think we can actually do something fun with them to educate them and not just have a speech in front of the school, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. If you have any ideas, throw them my way and we'll work together and we'll make it happen. Yeah.
That'd be great. Because yeah, the person is saying that could also be a great way to help their own parents and grandparents with
Yes.
scams, right?
And you know what I think? Like I always say, keep the communication open with your loved ones because you never know if something's happening to grandma and she doesn't want to talk about it. But if you go and see grandma and you say, "Hey, grandma, look, I got this text message today. I get so many." Or I got a telephone call. If you open up the conversation with your loved ones, they may be more tempted to open up the conversation with you if something is happening.
Yeah. Anytime I talk to my mother now, I feel like we always have a 5 minute set aside for, okay, so I got this email and I'm pretty sure it was not right. And, we sort of like debrief
Yeah.
on it and then we
And
move
to
on.
go back to the school thing, like how they have the les annonces, the announcements at the beginning of the day. Like
Mhm.
I think that it would be like a great idea to like, have a fake scam call once a week, like Wednesday scam or whatever. And so to educate the kids that it can happen and make fun with it. So yeah, keep the
Yeah,
conversation open for sure.
right. Um, a person is saying that they track all email, text, and phone fraud communication that they receive and they block and then report them. Does the CAFC want this data? Like there's been no theft, there's been no active scam, but is that something that the person should share with you?
Not telephone numbers, like I said, because most of them are spoofed, and these telephone numbers are either a telephone number that's not in service or it belongs to an actual legitimate person. So we don't want those because then we'll report them to Bell and Bell will try to shut them down. But for emails, yeah, we want them. So the best way would be to go on our website and report them. We would want you to upload the whole email and not just the email address. Um, and that brings me to like a lot of people ask, like, how can we stop those calls from coming in and how can we stop those emails from coming in? And I'm being 100% honest, you can't. Even if you block them, they change telephone numbers. And you're blocking the wrong telephone number, first of all, and the emails as well. Like we disrupt so many emails, but fraudsters know that they could just create a new one. So most often they're not even using the same email address twice to send an email. So that's something I want to add. It's very unfortunate, but it's very true.
Okay. There's a couple of interesting questions that have popped up actually in the chat. I'm just kind of changing lanes real quick, but someone was asking about biometrics. So for instance, using, I guess, your thumbprint or your eyes or facial recognition. Is it possible to have biometrics copied and used to sign in your bank account?
I can't answer that question because I don't know. I don't know the answer.
That's fair.
I think biometrics are a great thing. I trust biometrics, but doesn't mean everybody does. And that's my personal opinion. Being copied, it'd be kind of hard, but you never know. You never know what these fraudsters are up to. But I haven't heard any of that, to be honest.
Okay. I guess, yeah, that might be the answer is if it hasn't popped on your radar yet, it is likely that it's not yet a problem. But
I don't think it's yet a problem. Like if this person absolutely wants to know, I could do a search in our database to see if there's anything with biometrics.
Mhm,
But as of now, I haven't personally seen anything.
mhm. And kind of the follow-up question from the same person is about AI, right? Because we're hearing more and more about the rise of AI, particularly in use for scams. And now there's voice imitation, voice recognition things that can spoof a person's voice. So how do we deal with that? What should people know about this?
So AI is very, 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 very scary to us.
Mm,
AI is used for a lot of good things, but it's also used for a lot of bad things, including scams, and we foresee it happening more and more. The thing that we are seeing the most right now is little videos on social media where, Elon Musk is promoting this cryptocurrency. He made a lot of money, or, Doug Ford is wanting you to buy this product, or, you know, Angelina Jolie is advertising slimming pills or whatever, right? So these are all artificial intelligence. So with the thing, deepfake technology, we call it. So with that, it's important to know that they can change the voice, but they can even change the actions, and they can even change like the gender, the skin tone, the ethnicity. They can change everything. So I'll use a quote that my mom used to tell me when I was a kid. Just because it's on TV, it doesn't mean it's real, right? So now we need to be even more cautious of that. And again, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And there's
mhm,
my take five, talk to two people, take 5 minutes before you actually react and think, follow your gut. Like, is this real? If you're questioning yourself, honestly, don't move on. Don't do it, right? But yeah, artificial intelligence is scary and we don't know where it's going. A lot of people will tell us that with the grandparent scam, I know I haven't talked about that today,
mhm,
but the grandparent scam is when the grandson calls you and tells you they're in trouble, they've been stopped by the cops, and they need bail money or money for lawyers. And they even talk to like law enforcement officials or lawyers. And these fraudsters are actually going to the people's homes and collecting money, or they're getting them to send the money via a postal service or something of the sort. We've been told many times that they think that artificial intelligence has been used because it did sound like their grandchild. That has not been proven yet, but we foresee it coming with any type of scam, right? So,
mm. I would recommend it's a very home-brewed solution, but having a kind of a personal password or like code word that you agree with your grandparents or your parents
and
so that
Benedict,
you can resort to that.
you say a personal code, but it doesn't have to be a personal code. It could be anything, right? Like I say, like, if you have tea with your grandma every Sunday and she has a red cup, say, Grandma, what color is that cup?
Mhm,
Or, you grew up with somebody and your dog was named Shadow 50 years ago. What was the name of my dog again? Or if you don't have a personal question for that person, whether it's on social media, text message, telephone, ask them a random question. If it's a scammer, they will most likely not communicate with you anymore, right? Like if it's a specific question, right?
Yeah.
So I had just a little example. My dad's girlfriend's son posted a motorcycle for sale.
Mhm.
And I asked him, I said, "Is this your bike, Mike?" He doesn't know that, like, I know of the family. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, it's my bike." So I was like, baloney, because I know that was my dad's bike, right? So that Mike had posted for sale for my dad. So it doesn't have to be a big question, just any type of little question.
Yeah. Going back to the kind of questions of people getting into your accounts and scamming you, somebody says that, recently someone took control of their email, Facebook, and started extorting money from them. And they were told to change their passwords, which helped stop the threats. But they did not get their computer cleaned. They did not really do a deep clean. Are they still at risk? And what's the recommendation there?
I would for sure get the computer checked because most often what happens is that fraudsters will they can download applications where they always have access to that computer, and sometimes they'll hide them in other applications that they currently have, or
Mhm.
it'll be a little game somewhere that you don't physically see on your desktop or in your search bar. It's hidden somewhere. So the Seraph Secure is something that I do recommend. I downloaded it on my laptop when I heard about it, and it did like a scan and it removed one um piece software that they didn't think was legit. So I was like, okay, sure, if you don't think it's legit, remove it. And I have to say that the gentleman who created the Seraph Secure, his parents were scammed, and he's an IT like brainiac, and
Mhm.
he's the one who created it to protect people like his parents. So I truly believe his product is personally believe his product is good.
Okay, thank you. Somebody was asking, what if your phone number is getting spoofed? How do you unspoof it? I don't know if
Can't do
unspoof is
nothing
the word,
about
but
it. Change your phone number. No, honestly, you can't do anything about it. And again, that's another one of those things that it's very unfortunate. What I would recommend though is that if they know that this number has been used multiple times, put it in your voicemail. Say, "Hi, if you're calling me back because I called you, just letting you know that my number is being spoofed. It's most likely not me. If you believe that it is me, leave me a message. And if it's legit, I will call you back." Some people's numbers have been like used over and over and over and over again. So that's the suggestion that we say, and not to pick up again any calls from numbers that you don't recognize. Sometimes people have been threatened because they think that they're the scammer, right? So just to prevent that from happening.
Rayan, sorry, I kept asking questions because it kept coming in, but I guess it's almost the end of our hour. I saw you come online. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. I was
There you
just
are.
wanted to just do some final slides. Yes, there's been some great questions for the presentation today. And I just wanted to also just add, I just wanted to put up the slide. I just had the wrong slide deck up there. Still the wrong one. Oh no, I'm not sure which one you're seeing. You're seeing the
We're
wrong.
seeing the check rate report. Oh, and now we're seeing something else. That's kind of hiding your slide.
Sorry.
It's all right. You
Too
were
many.
about to share some information about credit reports. Is that
Yes.
correct? Okay.
Yes.
I can
Sorry.
pop some of that information in the chat box at the same time.
I just wanted to also mention that we have a new podcast, and Stephanie did present on scams, on romance scams and emergency scams, which will be posted on um, our podcast this week. So if you're interested in looking at our podcast, it's called Aging Vibrantly, Conversations to Empower Seniors, or it'll be on our website as well. And Benedict has done a presentation as well in French on powers of attorney. So there's lots of presentations as well. The other thing I just wanted to remind people and Stephanie might have alluded to it, but if you do, or you're concerned about your credit, you can go to Equifax and TransUnion and do credit checks just to make sure that you haven't been, someone hasn't taken your identity, and just to check that as well, just to keep in tune. We will be doing another session with Equifax. We did one, I think, 2-3 weeks ago, and people were asking if we would do that one again because there was a lot of interest in to sort of understanding what those reports say with credit scores, and how to check your identity, to make sure that no one has taken that. So just stay tuned. We'll probably have something in the next few months with Equifax or TransUnion in the future. So just a reminder as well, there's a new site from the Serious Fraud Office of Ontario that also provides information on frauds and scams. And so you can get information, which also has a link to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. So you can check that website out as well. And they also support victims of serious crimes as well, which is a different unit than what Stephanie was mentioning earlier in her presentation as well. And lastly, we have many resources on fraud prevention similar to Benedict. So look at our websites for that. We do have a presentation coming up next week on reporting of elder abuse. So we have an officer that's going to be speaking, an ethicist, and the Retirement Home Authority on sort of issues about understanding about reporting and what happens once a report is made. So please, this is free, so there's no charge for it. So if you're interested, go on our website and we'll provide or you'll see under upcoming conferences the linked information to that as well. And we also have our last Tax Talk series next week on administrative estate taxes. So again, on our website, you'll find all the upcoming events for this year. Don't forget to do your evaluation. We do appreciate you taking a couple of minutes to do the feedback for our presentation. And if you want to contact both either organization, so Benedict with the Canadian Network for the Prevention of Elder Abuse, or Elder Abuse Prevention Ontario, there's our contact information and social media. We post constantly on our sites for social media to make sure that you're in tune with everything that we're up to keep you apprised. And we share things that are actually happening outside of our jurisdictions as well. So thank you all for your attendance. Thank you, Stephanie. Great presentation again. And to our interpreters for your support today, and for everyone's great questions. I think there was a lot of dialogue that happened today. So thank you all, and we'll hope to see you again at our next session. Thanks.
Thank you again.